so you get used to dealing with people. You get used to talking. You get used to interviews like this. You get used to sharing all the information you know and putting it in a little mold so these people understand what you're saying. You're not just talking random facts about science. You're giving them something that they actually understand. And to me, that's the biggest thing that I experienced from the ambassador program, was really learning how to interact. But what it also allowed me to do, it allowed me to sit back and listen. I wasn't having to do the talking. I wasn't having to initiate the conversation. I was sitting there and I was solely learning. And when I say this, I mean at that camp that I went to, the Texas 4-H Livestock Ambassador Camp, the first camp, when I went to the one at Texas A&M, and then this past year when I went to the Texas Livestock Ambassador Advocacy Academy at the Capitol, I was able to sit back and listen and learn how dumb I actually am in certain things. I knew nothing about politics, but going to Advocacy Academy and day at the Capitol, I was really able to learn why agriculture is important to political officials and how it impacts their jobs, because their lifestyle isn't just about oil or getting their next vote or, working on the next bill. Agriculture is a big part of it, and we got to meet with all kinds of people, Texas Farm Bureau, people that heavily influence agriculture, and we got to see why the political process is so important to them. And those are just two of the camps. You learn about politics, and you learn about cattle and livestock and sheep and goats and all kinds of things. The other camp that I'm applying to now is the ambassador program allows you to go international. It allows you to see something that you don't see every day or every month or year when you travel the state whenever you travel the state or the United States. You get to see outside of your world. And so it allows you to go to countries like Australia and New Zealand and see how they conduct agriculture, see why it's important to them or what's most important to them. So overall, the ambassador program just allows you to get yourself out there and experience all different kinds of things that you never would be able to experience if you just sat at home or if you just stayed at the barn working with the cattle. It allows you to meet people from all over the world and all over the country and really get to get your name out there, but get other people's names to you so you can learn about the importance of them in the agricultural industry and the ag industry in general.
Yeah. That was a great overview, Robert, of the Livestock Ambassador Program. So thanks for walking us through that. I, too, sometimes feel pretty dumb. I learn something every single time I'm at one of our short courses. So for those of you joining us on Zoom who may not be familiar with the Livestock Ambassador Program, or if you have any questions throughout this, go ahead and put those in the chat box, and we're going to be addressing those as we go. So anything you have questions on, put it in the chat box as we go, and we're going to be answering those. Just to expand a little bit on the great overview that Robert gave on the Ambassador Program, we do have several Ambassador short course opportunities. We have, for our livestock ambassadors, we have short courses at West Texas A&M and Texas Tech University up in the Panhandle. We, of course, have our short course at Texas A&M University in College Station. And then we have another short course at Kingsville in South Texas. So those short courses are 4-day events held, like I said, at university campuses. And what that allows for is for young people like Robert to get experience in being in college settings. So he got to sit in real seats that college students at Texas A&M University sit in. He heard from professors at Texas A&M, and he really got some great working knowledge and information from professors, industry professionals, Texas A&M AgriLife Extension specialists, and just a lot of folks that he may not have had the opportunity to get in front of through that 4-day college-level learning experience. And so if you are interested in the Livestock Ambassador Program, we have a couple of application deadlines coming up. So our application deadline for all of our livestock short courses is May 1st. Then we actually have a new opportunity this year. It's for National Livestock Ambassador Program. And so that's for all of our 50 states as well as Puerto Rico, and to join us for a similar short course to what we just talked about. So it's for other states to join us here in Texas. We know we have great resources and people to offer, and so we're inviting them to come join us. Then our advocacy application date is also May 1st. So our Advocacy Academy, like Robert said, is the second level of our program where young people get to come to our state's capital. They get to hear from Texas legislators as well as, policymakers and lobbyists and other professionals in that realm, and learn how important it is that we advocate for agriculture and so that we can keep moving forward here in Texas to have this incredible industry that we do. They also get incredible media training during that. So you'll see that Robert's well-versed in that. And so that's a huge part of it as well. And then kind of like the big cookie at the end of this trail, like Robert said, is our third phase of our experiences. And that's our travel opportunities. So we have international as well as domestic travel opportunities. So last summer, we actually went to California. We started in Portland, Oregon, and over 10 days worked our way through the southern tip of California, learning all about agriculture from their perspective. And again, how important it is that we continue to advocate so we can help prevent some of the strict regulations that they have over there. So this summer, like Robert said, we're looking forward to going to Australia for 10 days. We have a June 1 deadline for that. So Kelly put in the chat box for everyone to see our website there, texasyouthlivestock.com, so you can learn more about the Livestock and Equine Ambassador Program, as well as some of the other resources we have related to livestock projects and, of course, beef cattle projects. Something I didn't mention much, but we have certainly for anyone interested on the call, is our Equine Ambassador Program. And basically everything we just said about livestock, they learn about equine. So they hear from industry professionals and professors and other types of people within the equine industry to learn more about that. So if you're interested, go check out that website that they're putting in the chat box. All right, let's move on to our next topic of conversation. Robert, I'm learning more about you. I didn't know that you showed pigs. I didn't know some other things that we'll learn later in this call. But if I know anything about you, if anyone knows anything about you, it is that you are quite simply a beast at commercial steer projects. So that is, you're going to be pretty humble, I know, but Robert is really good at commercial steer projects. Sorry, that was a hard one to get out. He's going to tell us a little more about that opportunity, how it differs from our market steer projects and the other opportunities associated with that. And before he gets started, I want to brag on him just a little bit. Last year, Robert won the steer competition in Houston and actually won a truck. And I'm pretty sure he won that truck before he was even of age to drive. So that's a pretty cool deal. That's an incredible contest with a lot of real world application. So Robert, tell us a little more about the commercial steer project and kind of your tips and tricks. I think we'd like to know how you get so good at that.
Well, the commercial steer contest is definitely something that I highly encourage, but as you said, it's also something that is majorly or vastly different from just a halter steer. Commercial steers is all about agriculture, as I'd say, but commercial steers is like you're a feedlot owner. That's how you have to take to look at it or have that in your mind. Commercial steer, you got to think when you're raising a pen of 2 or a pen of 3 or a pen of 4 steers, you're raising a miniature version of a feedlot. You're in charge of feeding these cattle. You're in charge of taking care of these cattle, giving them vaccinations, figuring out your break even, figuring out your cost of gain, your average daily gain. You are the owner of these cattle. Your house or wherever they're getting fed is the feedlot. And when you start to think about it, you have a lot more responsibility because you got to think you're buying 3 of them. You put a decent amount of money into these cattle through feed, through purchasing them, through vaccinations. You also have to get that money out of these cattle if you want to make money or at least break even. So in my opinion, it puts you in the most realistic scenario of a future ag lifestyle or a future ag career as a feedlot owner. You aren't always going to be on the positive end of things. You're not always going to be making money. You're not always going to be right. You're not always going to be the one on top. But you have to be able to get used to that and use it to your advantage, how I'd say it. And so I actually this is our study guide.
Wow.
You can't exactly see it, but that is about 300 pages long for our San Antonio contest.
Wow.
And if I had to describe it as something, it would be a lifestyle. You have to make it part of your lifestyle. You have to study it every day, just like you have to wake up every day. It's a part of the commitment to the contest. And I've been doing San Antonio for, I believe, 5 years. So I have read through that 300-page book over 10 times.
Wow.
And that is a lot to read. And
That is a lot to read.
Because you go over the same stuff over and over and over. But as I said, it's a commitment, it's a lifestyle. It's something you got to do. You have to study. You have to get to know better if you want to be good at these contests. But as I said earlier, they're different than just a regular contest. And yes, they're just like a feedlot, but they allow you to interact with people in a different way than what you regularly would as a halter, showing a halter steer or a halter heifer, a public speaking contest. These contests, they offer interviews. They do offer public speaking, but in front of 300 people in a room with a microphone, with your steers behind you kicking up dirt, with 4 judges drilling you with really hard questions after. It's something that really builds your character. These contests offer what's called a closeout sheet. So just as I said, it's just like a feed yard. Once they give you your final weights on your cattle, you have to go, they give you a price and you have to go figure out, hey, did I make money? Did I lose money? How much did I lose? You know, if I were to sell these cattle today, what would their price be? All these different characteristics of it. And then what it also allows you to do is not only know the cattle themselves as a physical animal, but know them as an internal side of the animal. You have to know what cuts of meat come out of that cattle. You have to know the quality of those cuts, why that's important, the age of those cattle, and why that's important in our ag industry and the beef industry and in the world, because age does make a difference. You have to know all these different things just about those simple 3 steers if you want to excel in these contests. And it also brings in the quiz portion, which is, for San Antonio, it's all out of that 300-page study guide. For Houston, it's everything. It can be over anything. It can be about, why did Trump give us subsidies for after the tariffs happened? Or why did China close its import markets from the U.S.? Why is Corona such a big deal? It can be anything. So it gives you something that you have to stay on your toes. You have to stay up to date. You have to know everything about cattle, not just about the vet side, not just about the feeding side, not just about the nutrition, everything that affects cattle. And so that's like the overview. In there, I've mentioned the majority of tips. As I said, studying is your lifestyle. It's got to be something you do all the time. You have to make yourself do it. Even if you don't want to, you just have to think of the goal in the future. You know, do you want to win a truck? Do you want to win a trailer? Do you want to win a $10,000 scholarship?
Yeah.
Yes, I'd love to win a $10,000 scholarship. So you got to put in the time for it. Other tips: talk all the time, but don't talk all the time. Know your stuff, know what you're talking about, but when you don't know what you're talking about, don't talk. Take time to listen. Take time to understand what people are teaching you if you're at an event or if someone's giving a presentation. Absorb that information and then give it back to whoever's interviewing you. Learn how to interview yourself. That was my important thing. I learned a lot of things this past year or last year that I never knew before. I took time to interview myself and figure out, what do you actually know? Like, I may know that acidosis, which is a feeding disorder in cattle, I may know the super science version of it, but that doesn't matter if I don't know why cattle get it.
Yeah.
That's the thing. So you have to be able to interview yourself, critique yourself, figure out what you know and what you don't know. And at the same time, you have to learn your animals. You know, as I said, you're a feedlot owner. You're feeding, you're watering, you're giving these animals hay, you're giving them shelter, vaccinations, you're taking care of them. They're basically your kid, if we put in a simplistic version. And you have to know what you're putting into these cattle and why you're putting it into these animals. What good is it going to be? Where does it help? Why are you doing this? Those are all questions you may get asked in an interview, and those are all questions you could just get asked in public one day by a regular person. You know, I heard y'all give these cattle this, this, and this. Why do you give them that? Why do you feed them corn over Milo? Why do you give them hay and not just turn them out on a pasture? Things like that. And overall, I basically the best tip I can give about commercial steers is you have to make it your passion. You have to be passionate about it. You have to be willing to put in the hours to study. You have to be willing to get yourself knocked down by a panel of 10 interviewers that when you answer a question wrong, they will tell you and they will make sure you know that you got it wrong. You have to be able to withstand that and fire back in a good way. Okay, I got that. Let's go to the next question. Make up for it. You got to be able to do that not only in that interview, just in a regular lifestyle. So everything you learn in this contest applies to your everyday lifestyle as well as to the contest.
Cool. Robert, we can see that passion is definitely something that's important to you, and we can see that you are definitely passionate about this. You had a lot of tips and a lot of information in there. Again, just want to remind you, if you have any questions for Robert or myself as we keep going through, put those in the chat box and we'll get to them. Sounds like the commercial steer contest is really worthwhile. Sounds like a lot of work, but it's worth it. We can tell that you've definitely learned a lot about that project. So I've been grilling you with questions, and I promised an interview here. So do you have any questions for me, I guess, at this point,
Actually,
Robert?
I do have some questions for you, Dottie.
Let's hear
I didn't want to be the only one being grilled today. So I have learned a little bit about you. And as you said, my sister works with you. So, I have some background information.
Inside scoop.
So I know you grew up, and as you said, raising pigs and raising all types of livestock. And I want to know, how did your past and the things you were involved in agriculturally and outside of it influence where you are today as a AgriLife extension? I don't even remember the full name, but influence your job and where you are today.
Yeah, the title doesn't matter. It's just a bunch of words anyway. But yeah, that's a good question. Thanks for asking it. So like you said, I showed mostly sheep as well as pigs and a few goats here and there when I had to, but mostly sheep. And I also did quite a bit in 4-H and FFA. So similar to you, was pretty active in things like educational presentation, as well as leadership positions on county and district levels, and was pretty involved with livestock judging as well as some other opportunities that definitely helped shape me along the way. So as I look back and think about, maybe what helped me get here to working at the state 4-H headquarters, it was everything we're talking about. It was not only my time in the show ring, I would say more importantly, it was my time outside when I was taking advantage of these contests and learning opportunities where I learned more about, like what you said, interviewing yourself, what am I good at and what am I not? And so when I figured out maybe, some things I wasn't good at, I tried to improve on that. And I think it was all of those learning experiences along the way that helped me get there. But most importantly, I think what helped me get here was the personal and professional connections I made along the way. We think about all of these contests and opportunities outside of the show ring, and really what's most important to me, even in and out of the show ring, is the people we get to work with. We have the most incredible people, I'm convinced, of any industry in the nation and the world here in our livestock industry. And it's folks who are professionals who have got there, if you will, like they've made it, and they're willing to look back and grab your hand and pull you up to where they are. And so I don't think anything is more important than the personal and professional connections I made along the way through things like livestock judging, speaking opportunities, leadership positions. I got to meet people who quite simply made it happen when I got here to Texas A&M and to College Station, and when I did that assessment of myself of what am I good at, what am I not so good at, and when I thought of that and worked with those professional mentors along the way, they were able to help me get to where I am now. And now I'm really thankful to be here at the State 4-H headquarters, helping with young people like you learn more about our industry, learn more about beef cattle, and showing steers and heifers. And so wanting to keep moving, that's the best I have for that answer. So I'm going to go back to you, obviously we know you do a lot of speaking opportunities. You've done some meat judging, some livestock judging, and you're obviously successful in the show ring. But you also compete in a lot of different contests like Quiz Bowl and Skillathon. We see that you've looked through 300 pages of a notebook. That's a lot. So you obviously are pretty good at studying, but what's your motivation to do those types of contests where it's so much studying and, you're doing Quiz Bowl. We're all tired of quizzes at this point. You're doing Skillathons. What's your motivation to focus on those types of contests?
I think that's a really good question. And I think you have to, as I said earlier, I mean, it takes a lot of time, it takes a lot of commitment, but you have to really think about why you're doing things as your question asks. And the way I look at it, and I think it's a really nice, good way to look at it, is you're taking all this time to study, to learn these cattle, to figure out who they are, what their makeup is, and I relate it to a basic lifestyle. You have to understand it as a relationship, just as a mom or a dad needs to know what their family likes to eat, just as a doctor needs to know the symptoms of a patient and the anatomy of it for him to diagnose them, for him to treat them. If you're creating a relationship with a friend, you want to know more about each other. And in my opinion, you have to take that same outlook and apply it to cattle. You have to look at it as if it's a relationship. That animal is your friend, whether it be cattle, whether it be pigs, whether it be goats, horses. That animal is your friend, and you have to build that relationship. And all that study time, aside from the personal relationship you make down at the barn, all that study time allows you to learn more about your friend, the animal. It allows you to learn what your animal likes to eat, what they need. What should you cook them for dinner? It allows you to figure out, hey, maybe this cow likes being scratched on its head. Sometimes this cow doesn't. Sometimes it allows you to learn the anatomy of them. Like you're a doctor, learn, well, this bone's very important. Maybe this cow has this bone broken, or, this could be what she's sick with, or anything like that. And overall, all that study time allows you to build that relationship, get to know the other person, get to know that animal. And so it does take a lot of time, and it gets to a point where you're like, I know everything. I don't need to know anymore. I went through a 300-page notebook 10 times, and I know everything. I don't need to go over it. But you'd be surprised by how many times you go through that book, and as you get older, every time you go through, you start to notice different things. Well, hey, this connects with this, or this goes here and this goes here, or these have no correlation whatsoever, and I thought they did. It allows you to get a better outlook of that animal, both externally, internally, and their needs and what they like and what they don't, what they need to survive, what they don't need to survive, and why we do everything. I mean, why do we work cattle? Why do we give them vaccinations and pour-ons and all this? Well, we do it to give them a better lifestyle. And it really asks you the question of why do you do things, and then you have to figure out the answer. And the best way to answer it is through learning all the material.
Yeah, that was probably the best explanation I could have ever thought of for why those types of learning contests and opportunities are so important. It nearly sounds like dating and getting to know the person you're dating, right? So you need to know, what's their favorite thing to eat, things like that. So that was a really great explanation of that. Thanks for going over that. So like I promised, what's your next question for me?
Okay, so this is an interesting question. It kind of deals with our time period, and it deals with really any time in the world that this has ever been created. But amidst all this stuff, us being homeschooled technically and everyone being locked down in the house with COVID-19 out on the loose, and us having to stay inside to not, give it to other people or get it from other people, you see that social media really takes an important part in our lives. We start to notice that, and we may have not noticed it before. Like right now, Zoom is technically social media. Most people learned about this on Facebook through social media. So we learn how important that is. So I guess the real question I'm asking you is, how can you as an agriculturalist, but what advice can you give to other people or to the youth? How can they use social media in a way to where they broadcast the correct message, or they can get their message out there, or to teach people and inform them about what we do, why we do it, things like that?
Yeah, that's a really good question, Robert. And like you said, really timely for right now. So we're in 2020 and we're pretty much overrun by social media as it is. I'd say my item for this scavenger hunt topic is a phone, right? We're basically connected to our phones and to Facebook and social media in general. It's so important all the time, but most especially now as everyone is quite literally connected to social media and finding information out on social media platforms. It's also really important because we know that our farmers and ranchers are facing some pretty tough times right now, as they're also affected by COVID-19. So in general, and in relation to our current circumstances, I do have a few tips for social media for young people, and any agriculturalist who's wanting to use social media as a platform to help tell our story. And so I think the first of that would be to keep it personal, right? So people are really interested in hearing about agriculturalists and how we care for and genuinely are concerned with raising animals who are healthy and safe and are ultimately going to lead to really healthy and safe products in the grocery store. So you talk about how important it is for you to know if this heifer likes being scratched on the head, what she likes to eat, how you can make her gain, things like that. And so that's what they want to see. They want to see your personal connection to livestock and agriculture. For me, I get to work alongside my husband. We have a few beef cows ourselves, and we love to get out there and just work with them and look at them and enjoy the pleasures of having beef cattle. So for me, I use our personal story like that. I'd also say along the lines of keeping it personal is also to keep it professional. So we know that people are really concerned with their food products and where they come from. So we want to make sure we're displaying that information in a way that's professional and creates trustworthiness when we think about our consumers and communicating with them on social media. So not only your message, but also your pictures need to be professional and well thought out when you think about who's going to be seeing them. I'd also say that you'd need to have facts, right? So if you posted about your animal and then they have a question, maybe a tough question or a harder question, you'd need some facts to follow that up, right? They want to know that a reliable source like Texas A&M AgriLife Extension or you name it has research-backed information on the given topic. So be ready to share that when you can. Finally, I just say your social media attempts at telling your story need to be genuine, right? So people, like I said, love that personal and emotional connection to what you're doing. They really are concerned and really are interested that you care for your heifers, Robert, or that anyone else on this call cares for the livestock they're taking care of. You can make it fun. You can make it personal. A little funny beef story aside from my beef story. We talk about telling our beef story and why it's so important. My beef story has really taken some twists and turns along my life. So I said I grew up showing sheep and pigs. And to be honest, growing up in 4-H and when I was a kid, I was deathly afraid of cattle. So steers and heifers was out. I was deathly afraid of them. So I mentioned livestock judging. I did that. So I was on our state champion livestock judging team. We went to the national competition in Louisville, Kentucky. I did all of that without touching a market steer to handle a market steer because I was that afraid of cattle and steers and heifers. And so that's actually kind of funny when you look at where I am now. And part of what I do is validation for cattle. So we actually pull DNA from the switch of the tail as part of validation. I'm sure many of you on this call have validated steers and heifers. You see that we literally go to the rear end of a steer and heifer and pull DNA. And so now I've done that hundreds of times, get right up in their business on their rear end, and am not scared to do it. And also get to work with young people like you on the other end of the halter and right up close and personal with beef cattle. And so that's a funny part of my beef story. So my point by that is make your story fun and personable and genuine. And at the end of the day, folks want to see you doing the really cool things you're already doing with your livestock projects. And through that, I know that young people like you and other people on this call are really going to serve as great advocates for our agriculture industry on social media and beyond when you're with your family or your friends or anywhere. So that's my answer to that. Robert, as we close, I want to get to this question because I've been really looking forward to asking you, and then I want to make sure we have some time for questions for anyone on the call. But as we close, do you quickly mind summing up all of these opportunities that we've talked about that you really grab them by the horns? You go after any opportunity to learn and compete and grow in this area. Why these are so important for you as a young person now, but also as you look to the future, and maybe tell us, what are you planning to do for your career? What are your goals right now? Discuss, what you plan to do and how you're going to use all of these things that you've learned along the way outside of the show ring.
Well, I think I'm going to answer the why the opportunities is important right now question first before I get to the future. But in the summary, so we've gone over a lot of different opportunities that I've done that are open to kids of all ages from all over the state of Texas or all over the country. Public speaking, sales talk, cattleman's quiz, skeleton, beef quiz bowl, livestock judging, meat judging, all these commercial steers, all these different things, all these opportunities that everyone pretty much has the opportunity to take part in. And I heavily encourage that you take part in them because it never hurts you to try to put yourself out there, even if you may not be good. Me personally, I'm deathly afraid of public speaking. I hate it. I hate going out in front of a crowd of 300 people, and I hate going in front of two judges that are sitting there in front of me that aren't staring me in the eye, that are looking at a piece of paper. It doesn't matter who it is or how many people it is. I'm deathly afraid of going in there because I'm afraid of messing up. But it's a challenge that I've had to face. That's why I do these contests. So I put myself in that place where I'm uncomfortable, but I know I can get myself through it. I know I can go through and be successful. And I really think that's what all these opportunities put you in a position where you really get to see who you are and you can make yourself better. You can improve yourself. You can learn how to speak in front of people, how to interview, how to take a quiz, or learn different items that ranchers use every day or cattlemen use every day. And it allows you all these different opportunities, not only to do the contest, but to meet people that are also doing it or meet people that are facilitating them and see what's their outlook on the ag industry, what's their outlook on the contest, what are their tips and tricks, what's something they do that could help you out in the future. And so that kind of quickly summarizes why they're so important. I mean, as I said, talking will always be used, whether it be on Facebook Live or in front of a huge crowd or one-on-one. And it never hurts to have a little bit of extra knowledge in your head and to network with people from all over and learn how to work with people, whether it be being an ambassador on an officer team, a director, or just with a group of people. It's priceless knowledge and skills that you can use. But now a little bit back to my future, as the other part of the question was. I actually got an item. It's a baseball. No, it's not because I love baseball and I'm going to become a professional baseball player. No, it's not that good.
Come on.
But the reason I actually got the baseball is because it's kind of a curveball in my life, my future. It's something I've thought about a lot, and it's what a lot of people ask you about when you get to a certain age. What are you going to do? You got to start thinking about college. What are you going to do as a job? What's your career? Are you going to be able to do that? And a lot of people assume, I spent 14 years of my life, 13 years, however many years, learning about agriculture, learning about commercial steers, about quizzes, about cattle, about all kinds of other animals, agriculture as a whole. They expect you go into that, that's what you spent. But this is where the curveball parts comes in, because I actually want to become a pilot in the future. And then
Right.
I've heard people say, why'd you waste 12 years of your life learning all about this when you're not even going to do that? And you got to look at it. It's not just, I didn't waste 12 years of my life. Over that 12 years, I've learned how to public speak. I've learned how to interview. I've learned how to take a quiz. I've met people from Arkansas, Louisiana, Texas, Oklahoma, a person from Mexico, a person from Canada. I've met all these different people. I've learned how to deal with challenging situations, to deal with a situation that may not look so good for me, and how to turn it around and see the positives of it and really make a good situation out of it or a good outcome out of it. And so that's what you really have to look at. All those skills, all that knowledge, everything you learn still applies to your future lifestyle, whether it be being a farmer, a feedlot owner, a pilot, a doctor, a surgeon. You're always going to use those skills, talking to your patients, talking to your flight crew, talking to your associates who work with you at the AgriLife Extension office, whoever it may be. And all those skills translate to your future. And you never know in the future when someone may be talking something about agriculture and you're like, hey, I know a little bit about that. And now all of a sudden you're stuck in a conversation for 20 minutes at the airport or in the operation room with talking about why cattle eat grass or do cattle produce methane or all these different things. So I think that really sums up and tells you my future.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. I was just gonna kind of wrap that up and wrap up our time together. We're running out of time, but Robert, that is so important what you said, and I hope maybe some other young people who are looking to their future or thinking about, gosh, what do I want to do one day? I know I love this agriculture thing. I know I love showing cattle. This is a huge part of my life and my family's life, but what do I really want to do? And I think you hit the nail on the head that these opportunities beyond the ring or outside the ring, these learning opportunities we keep talking about are so important as we think about the knowledge you've gained, as we think about the life skill development you have, when we think about public speaking and responsibility and caring and ethics and all the things you've gained along the way. And when you go become a pilot, or when Brantley becomes a doctor, or Brooke becomes a dentist, you're going to be able to sit there and talk to people about why livestock and agriculture is so important to our economy, to our world, to our health. And it doesn't matter what setting you're in as you go forward, these opportunities that are beyond the show ring are going to help you in anything you do. And so as we close, we're running out of time. I want to make sure we can ask a couple of questions as we can from folks in the audience, but just really appreciate you being with us, Robert. Can't say enough how proud of you we are. Obviously, your speaking practice has paid off. You've done an excellent job. Thanks for joining us and telling us a little bit about your story and your tips and your tricks and why this all is so important to you in terms of opportunities outside the show ring. So I'll quit talking and let folks ask questions. So feel free to ask them in the chat box. Feel free to ask them out loud. Now's your chance to turn your microphone back on. You are more than welcome to ask questions to myself or to Robert about 4-H, about the Livestock Ambassador Program, about any of these opportunities or contests we've been talking about. So fire away. We've been interviewing. We'd love to hear your questions and help you out as we think about opportunities beyond the show ring. How are you going? That's a good question. I'm glad you followed up on the scavenger hunt. So the question is, how are you going to get information for the scavenger hunt? The answer to that is I have two very good friends on the call, Kelly and Cortland Ranley, who are helping me to get that information. So you can direct message when you go to the chat. You can do everyone, or you can do directly to Kelly or Cortland, and they will help get your information to send you our Texas Youth Livestock and Ag swag for winning the scavenger hunt. So they will follow up with you to get that. I thought I saw the Pell family had their hand raised. That might mean that they have a question. Pell family, if you have a question, fire away.
For our gift. Am I gonna get it?
How are you going to get it? Yeah, so we're going to get your mailing address. So someone with the Pell family, I think Kelly or Cortland has tried to message you. You may check your purse. I don't know how to see, you can do a private message. So we'll get your mailing address that way, and we will mail you the swag.
Okay.
Thanks for playing the scavenger hunt. I hope you had fun.
Thank you.
Any other questions related to showing steers and heifers, or any of these contests or opportunities or ambassador program or 4-H in general? We'd love to help answer. We will have another one of these Zoom calls with Dr. Clear. Dr. Clear will be back next Tuesday. That'll be Tuesday at 3 p.m. I believe he's talking about feeding steer and heifer projects. So you will get a personal look, an inside look at the Clear family feed room and what they do and how they make magic happen for all of their success in the steer and heifer projects. So definitely be sure to come back to this Zoom channel, this same link and password and everything, and we'll be talking about feed and feeding. Okay, we have a question. What is y'all's main tip for showing steers? I may let Robert chime in a little bit, but I'd say, you know, he hit the nail on the head when he talked about getting to know your projects, getting to know, you know, how much they need to get fed. You need to know when they get sick. You need to know everything about showmanship. It's all about spending time with them, spending time with your projects, and working with them. Robert, do you want to elaborate any on that?
I mean, I think, as you said, I hit it a lot earlier. I mean, showing steers basically just, you got to take care of them. That's the main goal of it. And when it comes to, you know, make sure you're feeding them enough, make sure they have fresh, clean water, make sure they have, if it's just halter steers, make sure they have access to hay or, you know, grass at some period of time. Don't, you know, just completely shut them off of that. Make sure you're exercising them, you know, everything a regular human would do. The same rules applies to cattle. And feeding wise, a lot of times we do, my Uncle Mike works for United Ag, or we go to the breeder that we buy our steer from, and a lot of times the breeder or a local feed representative, they'll help you out with your feeding program. So don't be afraid to ask people about it and get their insight on it, because they want to help you. They're willing to help you. That's why they're there.
Cool. Great answer. Yeah, another tip for showing steers is keep following along with this series, man. We're talking about creating success with steers and heifers, so keep following along, Camille. Thanks for the question. The next question is, what age are the camps for? Yeah, so we were talking specifically about livestock and equine ambassador short courses. I think those are the camps you're talking about. And so those are for high school aged youth. 14 to 18 is typically the age range. We encourage you to start applying when you're 14 because, you know, it's a really competitive program and we have incredible young people who apply every year. We encourage you to start applying at 14. And hopefully within your senior age range of 14 to 18, you can join us for the livestock or equine ambassador short courses. The last question I see is, what does becoming an ambassador give you in the future? And I think with respect to time, I'll come to sum it up quickly that Robert really nailed this on the head throughout our time together this afternoon. And it gives you in the future the ability to do things like he just did, which is an interview of me asking him questions. You saw him elaborate on everything he talked about. He's very well versed in livestock and agriculture, and just really interested in learning all that he can, so that as a livestock ambassador, he can help mentor younger youth. You know, I don't know how old you are, Hannah, but youth in his county, in Colorado County, he's able and equipped now with the information and the tools that he's learned through the ambassador program to go help younger exhibitors who are maybe inexperienced with showing heifers, and he's able to go out and help them. He's also able to go out and help his county extension agent and extend our mission in terms of helping people understand more about agriculture and livestock. And that's just a quick summary of all that Robert said about what he's gained through being a livestock ambassador. So hope that helps. That's some of the internal and the big picture things we talk about. Of course, we have incentives like our domestic and international trips that are certainly great opportunities you can get through that program as well. So with respect to time, we will close it out. Robert, thanks again for your time. Everyone, remember to join us on Tuesday at 3 p.m., same time, same place. We'll be talking about feeding cattle. Thanks for joining us, everybody.